All right, friends, we have drawn our Paul Klee cat. This is what we did right before spring break. I hope you had a fabulous spring break, but it's time to add some color to our cat. First of all, we've got to trace our lines though. So I want you to find a black crayon. If you do not have a black crayon, you could also use gray or brown. I can get my brown crayon out. You could also use a really dark blue or a dark purple if you don't have any of those. I would prefer you to use black, but if you don't have black, you can use another dark color. So we need to trace over all of those lines that we made before spring break. Take your time, go carefully over them, because you guys worked really hard on them, and so I want you to make sure that it stays nice and clean and crisp. So you can pause this video if you need to, and we're gonna trace our lines. I'm gonna turn this video on hyperspeed so you don't have to watch me do the whole cat, and I'll see you in a second. If there are any lines that you didn't trace perfectly, which none of us traced perfectly, but if there are any lines that you really messed up, like I missed my collar pretty bad right here, you can go back with an eraser and just erase that out a little bit so it's not quite so bright. It'll get covered up by the colors we add, but if there's anything that you're like, ooh, I missed that line a little bit, you can go back and erase it. So friends, this is the art that we were inspired by 2 whole weeks ago, right before spring break, The Cat and the Bird by Paul Klee. So remember, we're drawing an abstract cat, or we drew an abstract cat, and we just traced it in black or a dark crayon so that we can really see those lines. We made our eyes similar to Paul Klee's. They're kind of like a diamond with an oval in the middle. We made a heart nose, and we helped split our face up into some shapes just like he did too. So Paul Klee liked to use specific color families. The 2 color families that we're going to talk about today are warm and cool colors. Our warm colors are the first 3 colors of the color wheel: red, orange, and yellow. You might also see pink in there, though pink is not on our color wheel that we've talked about so far. So red, orange, and yellow are warm colors. And then green, blue, and purple are our cool colors. So all of these paintings were done by Paul Klee. They're all abstract, and they all use those warm or cool colors. So warm colors, reds and oranges, yellows, and pinks. So these are our warm colors. Cool colors are blue, green, and purple. So what I want you to do right now is I want you, if you have your crayon box, maybe you have a baggie or a little container that holds your crayons in it, I want you to pull out the cool colors. And then I want you to have an adult check and make sure that you've pulled out the right ones. So start or pull out the crayons that you think are the cool colors and set them on the table next to you, because we're going to use those first. So I'm going to start pulling mine out. So any color that you think is cool, I want you to pull out. And you can pause this video while you work on that too. Once you think that you have pulled out all of the cool colors, have an adult check you. Make sure that that's what you've got. There are a couple colors that are tricky, and I'll show you those in just a second. But pull out those cool colors, and then we'll get started on our background, which is the part behind our cat. All right, friends, so I have pulled out my cool colors from my crayon box. I've got greens. Even this one right here is technically a green. It's called yellow green or green yellow, but it's still green. Blues and purples. So make sure that you only have green, blue, and purple on your page. If there are any other colors that you have, Put those back in your crayon box. We're gonna use those later. So you only need green, blue, and purple. So we're going to add some patterns to our background. So we talked about patterns last week when we were talking about our collar. So I made a pattern of circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle. Your pattern could be whatever you wanted it to be. But we're gonna make more patterns in our backgrounds using shapes and our cool colors. So I'm going to start so that you can see. So maybe up here, I really like triangles, so I'm gonna start with some triangles. Remember that we're going to add paint to our picture next week. So don't fill in all of the space. If you would like to color in some of your shapes or some of the background, you may. But remember that we're going to add paint, so you don't want to color in the whole thing. So I'm going to start drawing some shapes. It's kind of hard when there's a space right here, so I'll just skip all the way over here. Maybe I'll do it just all squares in this one. And I'm going to go for horizontally, left to right, and each line I'm going to make a new pattern. Each one. Maybe I'll practice my diamonds. We'll do diamond rectangle. Diamond rectangle. You can come up with your own shapes. My crayons got a little melted in the car. Can you see that? A little twisted. It might break a little bit, but we'll see. So maybe I do heart, triangle. Maybe you use stars. And I'm going fast, but you can go as slow as you need to. We're just doing patterns. Make sure you skip over your cat when you're doing your horizontal patterns. We don't want to go through the cat. We're skipping over it because we're just staying in the background. So I'm about to take this video to hyperspeed so you don't have to watch this, and you can catch up in a second. Pause as you need to. All right, so your patterns might be bigger, they might be smaller. You might have changed up and done lots of colors in one row. That is perfect however you do it. We just wanted shapes in our background. So I'm gonna move my cool colors away from me because I've just finished my cool colors in my background. If you haven't finished yet, pause this video until you've caught up and finished all of your shapes in your background. If you are finished with your shapes, I'm gonna pull out my warm colors that I didn't use. So they were everything that was left in my crayon box. So my warm colors, I'm going to use to make lines. So my warm colors are red, orange, yellow, and maybe a little pink. And I'm gonna make lines on my cat. I'm not going to color in my whole cat because I'm going to add paint to it next week. But I'm gonna add some lines to make patterns on the cat. So this will create what's called contrast. Can you guys say contrast? So contrast is when two things that are opposite are right next to each other. So lines and shapes are different. So those are gonna make each other contrast because shapes next to lines are different. But also cool colors and warm colors are opposites. So them being next to each other will make the other one pop. So contrast helps make it pop. So you can do this on the face, you can do this on the body, wherever you think lined patterns would look nice, you can add those. Remember all the different types of lines that we talked about at the beginning of the year. Diagonal, vertical, horizontal. We talked about other types of lines like zigzag and swirly. So you can use any types of lines that you would like to on your cat using the warm colors. All right, friends, so I've added lines using my warm colors, red, orange, and yellow, and a little bit of pink, to my cat. So I've got my cat that has lines all over it. I use swirls and squiggly lines and crazy lines and curved lines, thick lines, any kind of line that you can think of you can use on your cat. The background, I used shapes. I used my cool colored crayons to make shapes in the background that made a pattern as well. So this is what our stopping point for this week. Next week, we will come back and add paint to these. So finish up, no rush whatsoever. Add cool colored shapes in your background and warm colored lines on your cat. And I'll see you next week. Adios.